hello and welcome to today's broadcast of the EVO News. And my name is Richard Bowell. And if you've been following these news broadcasts, you'll know that we're taking major news stories from the mainstream media and we're showing the inward view, the human view, the view that challenges us to do something consciously in response to the outer news that we see, or we think we see. And today's news is about the March for Life. And I can't imagine there's hardly a person who hasn't seen this news, seen some glimpse of these hundreds of thousands of people initiated by young adults, some only just in their teens, who've brought together millions of people, not just in Washington, not just in America, but all around the world. Now, I can't do justice to the story that led up to the march. So much grief, so much heartbreak, so much loss of life of such young people. But I want to focus, as today's news is, on the march. And ask the question, did you see it? No. Did you see it? But did you see it? In this work, we put capitals to that, S-E-E. Did you see it? Meaning, did you see it consciously? Did you see what it was? I spent perhaps 4 or 5 hours just looking at the image of the march until I could see it. Because the mainstream media news was so bombarding on the senses of different views of the argument. And let's just recount some of them, because you've probably had reactions yourself to some of them, and maybe even taken sides on some of these issues. We have a right to arms. It's enshrined in the Second Amendment of the Constitution. Someone says, many say. We must have controls. Not everyone has a right. You can't give it to a 3-year-old. Maybe it should be a 21-year-old or an 18-year-old. Maybe there should be more mental health checks. No one's going to interfere with my right to have arms. Let's give arms to teachers. What about giving stones to students to bombard any would-be assailant who came into the classroom? Let's lock down the classroom. Put wire fences around. You've heard all of these dualities. And for a few days, there was such an upsurge of emotion between these different views that one felt it could break out into open conflict at any moment. And then the inevitable takes place. The pressure begins to drop, and another news item begins to take its place. Because mostly this is going on at the level of general awareness. But not so in those young people who led that march. This was an example of a consciousness being born. It was an extraordinary moment in US and world history. And I want to ask you to follow this shift. It doesn't require agreeing with it or not agreeing with it. It doesn't require a duality of thinking they're right or wrong. It doesn't require any of that. It requires just a coming alongside these young people who lost their friends, who faced death, who wanted to speak out in the country that is their home, from the classrooms and communities of which they are a part. Did you notice? I'm sure we all did. The degree of eloquence of the speakers. Some as young as 11. The timing, the pause, the theatre, the eloquence, the ability to reach a crowd of 500,000, 200,000. The fact that their anger was not directed at the general level of awareness. Their anger served another purpose, to make a space for a moment, for something new to be considered. And here's one EVO News insight. We have been brought up to believe that education is a good thing, and it is. Learning is a good thing, and experience is a good thing. But we saw something else present. When they spoke, it didn't come from learning. It didn't come from the dialectic of reasoning and challenge and the way of wrestling with ideas. It came with a purity of signal and thought that would seem to be unthinkable for people of that age. And it seemed to come through so many of them the same. Now we would propose in the evolutionary process that something has begun to change. That where this seems impossible, and actually, because this work is being done in conjunction with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, most of what we're facing as challenges in the world is already impossible. We mentioned water in the last one. It's impossible to clean water. It's full of microparticles now. It's impossible to feed 7 billion people when all the events taking place are reducing land, creating more refugees, global climate changes, making more land uninhabitable. Those young people were pushed into the next human step, a new beginning. Now, some older people, older in years, may have tried to hitch their wagon to the cause and talk about politics and talk about this party against that party, but that's not what I saw. What I saw, what the EVO News team saw, was that these young people had stepped into a new permission of life, to start again, to not do this, to say this is a march for life itself, and to find out where life runs. Not antagonism, conflict, death, destruction, but where life, and along that line they would march. They were full of a gentle but firm compassion, a clear purposeful anger, and a declaration that they wanted something new in a new time. So, a march for life. It might have gone by last week, but for the conscious person who stands alongside those people and others who are marching for life, it hasn't gone by. It just got that bit stronger. But to be able to march for life means that one has to allay and put to rest one's own history, one's own conflict, and step with them into something else. The greatest news of these times is not what's happening in the external world, it's what's getting born out of the human, of which we are all a part. Humanity, if we can see it. If we only see our point of view, it's a march for death. It will get worse and worse and worse. And here was a change, and it began to open up into a possibility. This news is about illuminating that consciousness of that human possibility in this moment in time in our evolutionary unfolding. If you're watching this, which obviously you are, share it around. It's for the world. It's on television networks. It's on our website, and you can have it downloaded. But don't sink back into your sofa and watch it like mainstream news. This is saying, can you feel it? Can you notate this shift in yourself? And as you catch it, a whole new kind of vista appears about what it means to be living a significant human life. Thank you on behalf of EVO News and all the people who've made this possible. Thank you.